It's Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance, and we are joined today by Lou Correa. He is a nominee for the United States Congress. What a resounding primary victory you had, sir, if I may say. You were up against how many candidates?
7. Total of 8 candidates running for Congress.
Yeah, and you got about 40% of the vote, is that right?
We're at almost 43%, that's correct.
That's stunning. That is a stunning number, given that many of those candidates were respectable. I mean, former members of the legislature, a mayor. How did you do this?
You know, I asked that same question.
Right.
How did I do this? I didn't expect that margin of victory, but I'm blessed, and I think it comes back to I grew up in the area.
Right.
I've been in the area all my life, went to high school there, elementary school.
You served there as a supervisor, as an assembly member, as
State
a senator.
That's correct.
So you're well known, but others
These
are well known too.
These are my friends and neighbors that voted for me. I had my college professor come in and volunteer for me.
That's nice. That's really nice.
And so when you have those kind of roots, I think it's just basic. I got hit hard with a lot of negativity, and I had people telling me, look, Lou, these people came to my door and told me you're a bad guy, and we told them, please leave, because we know Lou personally.
Right. I want to get a sense, though, about the general election. As we speak, it appears you'll be running against another Democrat.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, and this is not common. I mean, we have a new system here in California where the top two in a primary, a jungle primary, everyone runs against each other, advance. And it looks like your opponent will be a Democrat. How do you fashion your general election strategy in that atmosphere?
Good question, and I'll tell you why it's even better. Because I was part of the architect of that jungle primary.
Yes.
I supported the open primary, and the reason we did it was I wanted to make sure each and every voter got a chance to vote in the primary.
Right.
When you only have parties voting for each respective candidate, it really excludes a bunch of people from voting. We want democracy in the sense that more people that vote, you have a better choice.
But what's interesting about the scenario you face is in the prior system, you would have simply tried to drive up Democratic votes and hope that they put you over the top. Now, and maybe this is a good thing, you have to talk to Republicans. You have to talk to libertarians. You have to talk to no party preference because everyone's voting and your opponent's a Democrat.
So guess what I've been doing for the last few months?
Yes, you have.
I've been talking to Democrats, Republicans, they declined to state. I had one newspaper reporter say, why are you running a general election? This is a primary. And I said, well, because everybody can vote. And that's what I think that makes a better choice. When you talk to Republicans and Democrats, you come up with an individual that represents everybody. And is not driven by ideology, but you're driven by solutions.
I have to ask you if you believe that your large margin in the primary was impacted by an event that occurred, I think it was in May. And that event, for our viewers that may not know, you were driving in your community and you looked up and you saw an apartment building on fire. And according to media reports, you jumped into action and were likely the reason why several people did not perish in this house fire. First of all, I thank you as a citizen of this land. What do you think that incident did? I mean, obviously you didn't do it because of your race, but what do you think it did? It was all over the news.
Well, first of all, I've always taught to people in my community, the kids, that be involved, care about somebody else, go beyond. When I was driving by, my thought was I'm late to the meeting.
Right.
Oh my God, there's something. Well, I made a U-turn and I parked illegally, ran out of my car, said this is a fire that's beginning. It's starting right now. And
the people inside, I understand, did not know that
that's
the fire
right.
had started.
Well, that's funny. I was the first person out there in this courtyard. Second story, there's a fire. And a neighbor comes out and says, can I help you? I said, yeah, can we find a water hose? Let's start hosing this thing down. So we finally get a hose going, start, dousing the fire on the second floor. And I said, who called the firefighters? What do you mean? I said, anybody dial 911? What's that? Well, then we had some other issues. But we're blessed because there were 7 people, I believe, inside. And when I said, please get out, something's going on. What for, Lou? What do you want us to get out?
Right.
Because
did they know you?
They didn't know me.
Of course.
So later on, it was very nice
Right.
because after the incident, The owner of the apartment complex called me and said, "Thank you, Lou."
And how was it for you to handle that crush of media? I mean, you're used to dealing with the media in the context of being an elected official, not in the context of being a hero who is running for the United States Congress. I mean, that probably presented challenges. Honestly, you don't want to look as if you're trying to take advantage, but the facts are the facts. You were a hero.
Let me translate what
Please.
you just said, which is, in media and politics,
Right.
you generally have some control over who you talk to, what you're going to do. In this case, okay, I put out the fire, I left. Started getting phone calls from a couple of TV channels.
Yeah, how did they find out? Do you know how people
I
found
don't
out
know.
it was you?
I don't know.
That's
But-
actually, I wonder.
But the fact of the matter is, about 3 or 4 p.m., a few hours later, I get a
Right.
phone call from one of the TV stations saying, "Hey, we want to talk to you." We interviewed everybody in the area, and I kind of cringed and said, "So, what did they say?" They said, "You're a hero," and I said, "Oh, good."
Oh, good. Right. You never know.
Yeah, you never know what they're going to say about
course,
me, because your opponents, you're in a contested election.
Of
God
course.
knows what they'll spin.
Right.
But as I told people, it's not about being a hero. It's about doing good in your community.
And tell me how it makes you feel to know that you had the presence of mind to jump, to react in such a positive way. Now that it's behind you, what does that feel like inside?
It feels good, and I'll tell you that I think I've programmed myself to do those kinds of things. When we were young, we used to hear the stories about New York and people getting stabbed out in the streets, and bystanders would just watch it happen. And when I used to watch those stories, I would say, "Not Lou.
Right, yeah.
We shouldn't act that way. We should care about each other."
I want to talk about how folks are caring about each other in connection with the tragedy in Orlando. We know that a lot of folks jumped to help their friends, their family, their neighbors during this tragic incident. We also know it has brought up a lot of very challenging issues surrounding the Second Amendment and gun control. You have been known as someone that has tried to look at the issue in a measured way.
Yes.
And so I want to get a sense from you, how do you look at Orlando and whether we need additional gun, I don't want to say control, just measures relating to guns?
My approach on guns has been reasonable, common sense gun control, reasonable, common sense gun ownership. The other issue that we have in Orlando, San Bernardino,
Right.
Paris, is terrorism. So we have a lot of issues here that are molding into.
So let's talk about reasonable gun ownership.
Yes.
There are questions about whether citizens, residents, should be allowed to own what's known as a semi-automatic weapon. I know definitions are hard to pin down, but what we do know about Orlando, about San Bernardino, is that these semi-automatic weapons that allow rapid fire were used. Do civilians need access to those?
Well, I come back to the issue, which civilians are we talking about? And I think the central issue here is who can buy these weapons?
Right.
We have, to me, basic stuff like, are you on a terrorist watch list?
Right.
Should you be able to buy a weapon?
Well,
and,
if you were...
And the response that I would say is, if the FBI, if our folks that are watching for our safety at the national level are saying these people are questionable, well, if they're questionable enough to be held up when you get in a plane, they should not be able to buy a weapon.
So let's presume victory in November. You
Okay.
go to Washington, D.C. Let's just say the Republicans remain in control in the Congress. How do you try to prevail upon your friends in the Republican Party on that one issue, which seems to have tremendous support in America amongst Democrats and Republicans, on this no-fly, no-buy?
I think we come back and we talk about the common issues, which are public safety. We have to get away from the issue of, is this gun ownership or not gun ownership? This is about public safety and fighting terrorism.
Okay.
Do we want to have terrorists with these weapons? Any kind of weapon. Is it 6-shooter, 357 Magnum, or is it something else? We don't want these individuals with any weapons at all.
He's Lou Correa. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's Charter Local Edition.